Well, the troubles emanated a little over 100 years ago when, amongst the Tata family, J.R.D. Tata's father came back to India with a French wife. And she wanted to follow the religion, and they asked the high priest as to whether this was permissible or not. And they opined in a majority that yes, it is possible. So she was navjoted, navjoted being like she was ordained as a Parsi, a Zoroastrian actually. And after that came the children, and they wanted their navjots to be done as well. So it's like your first communion or your bar mitzvah. And this carried on for a little while. In the meantime, the erstwhile stalwarts of the community, some of them objected. You had the Gigi boys who objected to this, and another big family called the Petits decided to take up cudgels on behalf of the Tatars. And so this led to a court case, and it's known as the Davar-Beeman judgment, which came out in 1908. And they interviewed everybody they could, including the same high priest. And they spoke for more than 2 years, and it's registered there as part of their judgment that actually Zoroastrianism not only permits it, but it's a proselytizing religion. And that was it. Now, Justice Davar was a trained jurist. Beeman was British, but he was a civil servant who had then joined the bar. Gone to the courts of law. Now, at that point of time, they issued their judgment in 1908, and there they opined that though this is permissible as per, the Zoroastrian precepts, etc., the practice that had been followed since the advent of the original flood that came here, if you could call it a flood, it wasn't really a flood, but small boatloads. And since then, they had followed a patrilineal system. And so they said that we therefore say that, it's going to stay as patrilineal. And that's how the whole troubles erupted. So we've come to this stage here in this megapolis, which owes a lot to our Parsis, because most of South Bombay is through Parsi charities and their munificence. You can see it in every structure all over the city. Now, this movement was from the state of Gujarat, where we first lived, primarily as agrarians, and then they moved here, and then they moved into business. Because we embraced education, we got along well with our then colonial powers, the British, and we prospered. And when trade took place with China, our people did extremely well. And that is how they made their wealth primarily. Yes, part of it was from the opium trade, but textiles also came in here. And there was a big trade route there. Now, most of this money that these, who we call Sethias, made, meaning the big bosses made, was shared with the general populace. Yes, there were Parsi charities, but along with them, a lot of their wealth was spread far and wide. As a matter of fact, even after the plague and such setbacks, these people helped them through those difficult times. And it wasn't just for the Parsis. Yes, even again there, Navsari, which was our original bastion, when there were troubles there, truckloads and trainloads of goods were moved there to help our fellow brethren and the rest of the populace along with them. Now, what has happened subsequently is that there's been a wave to Western shores. And it started with, you could say, about our generation, my generation, where people, those who didn't have much wealth here and were willing to put to test their skills, their education, because they embraced that, they went to the West mostly. And of course, the first place being England, London, where they established themselves. Gradually, the movement went further across the pond to the United States and Canada, and then down, deep down south into Australia and even New Zealand. At this point of time, what's happened is that part of the judgment was that it was left to the trustee as to rule who should be permitted into their establishments and who could not. The original trusts specified that entrance was specifically for Zoroastrians, primarily Parsi and Iranian Zoroastrians. After the first wave, there was another wave about between 100 and 200 years ago. That wasn't a wave, but a lot of Iranians then came across, and they were known as the Iranian Zoroastrians. Now, at this point of time, we are still floundering here whether to admit, intermarriage for starters. We have a case now where more than 52% of our youth is intermarried. Our own family, is, you could say they're all part of this new acceptance. And here they want to stick by the edict of the 1908 judgment. And so that has kept almost 50%, because those ladies married outside especially, their children were not permitted, nor were they primarily. Originally, they weren't either permitted to join the mainstream of Zoroastrian Parsis. But they fought their battles, and we've come to a stage where they are not accepted but tolerated, but unfortunately, their offspring are not. Now, in the West, they've said that we are independent of you guys. We don't have to go by what is law or what is practice here in India. And they have started admitting intermarried couples. They've started establishing their own little fire temples abroad. And they're moving very progressively. So this is where we are. In Bombay, there's a schism. There's a distinct schism. And we are mostly here established in Bombay. And our original establishments in Pakistan, in Karachi, even in the West, in the East, in Calcutta, they've started dwindling. And so the majority of our Parsis, as we are known as now, are resident in Bombay. Now, in the West, they've started not just accepting, but participating. We let them participate in our, not just the functions, but even the ceremonies and the prayers. And to be honest, yes, there are a few hard hats there too. And they put their foot down to such things, but they're excluded from that mainstream of the West. And so perhaps, here in Bombay, we might not see any numbers increase. And if I might be partial and say wisdom dawn on our leaders of the community, we hope that the religion will survive. The numbers will dwindle, but that religion amongst the new adherents, mostly the offspring of intermarried couples, they would. And when I say in the West, today the largest concentration of Zoroastrians, of Parsi Zoroastrians, are in Canada. There are also a significant number in Texas, mostly around the Houston area. They are mostly people who've migrated from Karachi. And so we've come to this time in history, and we hope and pray that, yes, it's a lovely philosophy, the religion, basically it is filtered down to good thoughts, good words, good deeds, and that it's a religion of choice. You don't have to do anything that they say. It's a religion of choice. And the charities are also part of that. It's part of our upbringing. And therefore, all this munificence that was bestowed both here in Bombay and in other places in India. I hope I've been able to.
Perfectly. I wish I'd known of you and met you sooner. I would have loved to drill and ask you a million questions, and you. But in nature of the fact that you've been so generous with your time, you have to leave. So I completely understand.
Thank you.
But there's so much I would love to ask you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Really appreciate it.